not standing in the room unless he's right behind me right now. Well, then he's Superman. He's going to teach us an effective intro, why it's so important and needed. Without further ado, our secretary, Shay.
Grand entrance there, I just got blinded. So why do we need an introduction in Toastmasters? Think about it for yourself, just quickly. Think of how comfortable it might be if someone just gave your name and you just come walking up here and start to give a speech. How uncomfortable would that be for you as an audience member? There needs to be some type of transition from being in the group to coming up in front of the group and presenting. The audience needs to know something about you. You want to set the stage for what the person's going to be speaking about, what their credentials are. Do you want to get the audience in the proper state of mind? So what are the speaker's qualifications on the particular subject they're talking about? Again, that's covered in the introduction. That's going to give the audience the ability to get in the right state of mind, to know what's coming, to expect, so that they're not just totally in the dark without the introduction. And the atmosphere must be shift. If you think about it, we just had a break right now. What has been occurring during the break is much different than what's going to happen as the speaker comes up. The design of the introduction is to shift from what's been occurring to what will occur. So it helps to get the audience in the right state of mind. So that's why have an introduction. Now let's take a look at how to create an effective introduction. The first thing is that, as I said, is a smooth transition. Instead of an abrupt speaker just coming up, you have the ability to create a transition and get to know a little bit about the person that's coming up. What are they going to be speaking about? What are their credentials? The proper mindset. This is probably the most critical thing that comes about in the introduction I should spend the most time on. Getting the audience in the right mindset. Even if you know the speaker, such as myself or any of us in the room here, we know each other. But still, what is your expertise? What are you going to speak about today? What is your expertise in that area? What are your qualifications to speak on that particular topic? What is it that you have to bring to the table? What's going to be you want to focus on what's going to be the benefit for the audience in your introduction. Let them know what's going to be the benefit for the audience in your introduction. So they know, okay, now I see what I'm going to get out of it, so I'll pay attention. If they don't see any benefit in it, then they may not listen as intently. So what's the speaker's authority on that? Actually, my introduction I sent to Colin last night.
It was awesome.
I'll talk about some of that. So that was part of my fault. But the idea of the introduction, which he didn't say, so you don't know about me and my qualifications. We'll talk about that later. But the introduction is allowing you to know about the qualifications, what qualifies me. So since that part of the introduction didn't come, I've been a Toastmaster for 17 years. I've done a few introductions, as many of you have as well too. I've been VP of Education or President of almost every club I've belonged to. So again, it gives me the credibility and the background to be able to talk about why do an introduction. But let's talk about the general essentials. First of all, obviously, you want in the introduction, you want to mention the speaker's name. And you don't want to wait till the very end of the introduction unless it's some surprise speaker that nobody else knows about and they're outside the room and going to come in. That'd be the only reason why you might want to wait until the very end to give the speaker's name. Go ahead and mention it right in the beginning of the introduction. The speaker's topic, what are they going to be talking about? Again, gives you what's coming, so you know it's going to be prepared for it. And the speech title. According to Toastmasters, the speech essentials are which speech assignment, which manual are you speaking from? Are you speaking from the Competent Communicator Manual? If so, which project number? What's the timing on it? So again, it's reminding the time of what that time is, but also lets the audience know how long you're going to be speaking for. What are the speech objectives? Nearly all of Toastmasters speeches have a set of objectives. And so in your introduction, you should be listing what those objectives are, so the audience knows what you're trying to accomplish. Your evaluator, anybody that's doing a speech here in Toastmasters, needs to have a written evaluation of your speech to get credit for it. I have Ron doing mine here right now. But anytime you're doing a speech that's in a manual and you want credit for it, Not only do you need the oral evaluation, but for Toastmasters, you need a written evaluation. That's why you have the book. There's a place at the end of every project where you need to have somebody in the audience do a written evaluation for you. What is the delivery time? Again, every speech in Toastmasters has a target time. Most Toastmaster speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. But in our professional group here, we can go as long as 20 minutes or longer if necessary. But it lets the audience know what's the timing and what you're going to be doing. In terms of drafting an introduction, what's the approach? When we talk about the approach, and I got this from the Better Speakers Manual, what the Better Speakers Manual is sort of backing up that should have been covered in the first slide, is that what's the purpose of the Better Speaker Series? It's about teaching you skills or helping you to learn skills that are not covered anywhere else in Toastmasters. Everywhere in Toastmasters you have speaking skills, learning about speaking, or becoming a better leader. But nowhere in there, if you think about it, is there anything that teaches you about how to do an introduction. So that comes with Better Speaker Series. Better Speaker Series actually has, I think, about 9 or 10 projects, and they all cover different aspects of being a Toastmaster that are covered, that help you become a better speaker that are not covered in all the book manuals, in each of the, even the Confident Communicator or any of the advanced manuals. They're going to give you different skills to be able to add to it. So, and the introduction traditionally is written by who?
Speaker.
The speaker. But there will be occasions, and that's what Toastmasters is talking about, where you may have to write an introduction for someone else. And so that you need to understand what's the approach that the speaker wants to get with them. Talk about what length they're going to be doing, how they want it delivered. Generally, and Kelly knows this quite well, is that professional speakers, when they write their introduction, they give it to a client. They want to read it exactly as it is there. No ad-libbing, no changing. They want it just the way it is, and they put that in the directions. However, if in Toastmasters you want to allow your introducer to be ad-lib to it, that's fine, but that's your choice, and you let the introducer know that. Generally, it's going to be read word for word the way it is. It helps to clarify what you're going to be talking about. You want to identify exactly what it is you're going to try and cover in your particular speech. When you're giving the introduction, applying restraint. Don't upstage the speaker. The last thing you want to do, this is really all about the speaker. So make the speaker look good. It's no time to show off or showboat and be, showing off. As the introducer, your job is to introduce the speaker. So don't upstage them. Don't reveal what the speech contains. Don't do any of the content. Again, that's why you're going to read the introduction pretty much word for word. Don't surprise the speaker. Speaker don't like surprises. Don't praise any of the speaker's skills. And that actually sounds counterindicative. Where's the word?
Counterintuitive.
Counterintuitive is that you don't want to set the audience up to think, oh, he's going to be the funniest person you've ever heard. Well, now you've just set them up that, that they set the expectation too high. So don't talk about the speaker's skills unless that's something that's actually covered in the introduction. Don't rely on cliches. So again, that's something if you were doing it for someone else, you were writing that introduction for someone else. Don't say, as I mentioned before, don't say the speaker's name for last. Unless it's a surprise speaker, generally you're going to mention this person's name as you do the introduction, maybe right up front or several times throughout the introduction. Speaker's got responsibilities, and this is again if you're writing the introduction for someone else besides yourself. Be available and provide speech-related information to the person that's going to be introducing you. This might happen more in a professional environment. Inform the introducer about any special considerations, such as in Toastmasters, are you going to be doing a speech that's going to be, instead of the traditional 5 to 7, are you going to be doing a 10 to 13? Are you going to have a Q&A session? Are you going to have some other special timing there? Let them know about that so they can cover that in the introduction. Lectern etiquette. I was just talking to David about this before, because I learned something new in this particular manual that I'd never known about before. Number one, you want to speak to the audience. You don't want to just, when you're doing the introduction, be looking at the speaker. You don't really actually look at the speaker until you've actually mentioned the speaker's name, and at that time you can look at the speaker. But generally you're doing the introduction for the audience, so look at the audience. You lead the applause, obviously, shake hands with the speaker when they come up there. But this was an interesting thing. Leaving the lectern. How many times do you see here in our group that someone comes up, the speaker comes up, they shake hands, and people are kind of not sure which way to go. Who goes in front, who goes behind? According to Toastmasters, you're supposed to go the other direction. If the speaker comes this way, you're supposed to go this way. So you're turning control over them. So it takes, but the design of the room has to be there in order to allow it. Generally, we've only had one side you can go to. And in that case, what the rule is, and David and I talked about, and some of you may have heard this, is that the person who is taking control stays in front. The person who's leaving goes behind. And so let's try and keep that in mind in future, whether if we have the opportunity to go the opposite direction, do that. If not, the person who is taking control stays up front, and the person leaving will go behind that person. Then show interest. When you go back to the audience, show interest that you're interested in that speaking, hearing more about that particular speech. But introductions are only the beginning. After the speaker finishes speaking, you want to talk about. You can have, as the introducer, you can make some comments, which is usually Toastmaster of the day, can make some comments about the speeches, what they liked about it, points of entertainment that or any humor that were in there. They might be able to make comments on that. You know, how the speech helped the audience or enlightened the audience to some type of whatever their topic was they were trying to cover. And words of thanks or praise, and we're really usually pretty good at that. When somebody goes back down, we say, what a great speech or something. We have some comments, and we're pretty good about doing that. But introduction is part, but there's also finishing up at the end. In conclusion, it's time for us all to start mastering the introduction. Mr. Toastmaster.